There's a force inside you right now, raw, restless, and more powerful than almost anything else in human nature. Most people let it scatter their lives like leaves in the wind. But the rare few who understand its secret, they've used it to build empires, create masterpieces, and leave legacies that outlive them by centuries. Good evening. Tonight, I want to talk with you about something most people never discuss openly, yet it influences nearly every decision they make, every goal they abandon, and every dream they either chase or surrender. I'm talking about lust. Now, before you change the station, hear me out. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't what you might expect. This isn't a sermon. It's not a moral lecture. It's something far more practical, far more powerful, and if you grasp it, it could change the entire direction of your life. You see, lust in its broadest sense is desire. Intense, burning, almost overwhelming desire. It's the desire for physical pleasure, yes, but it's also the desire for wealth, for recognition, for power, for love, for something more than what you have right now. And here's the truth that ancient wisdom has known for thousands of years, but that modern society has largely forgotten. Lust is not your enemy, it's your fuel. The question isn't whether you have these powerful desires. You do. Every human being does. The question is, what are you doing with them? Most people let their desires control them. They're pulled this way and that, chasing momentary satisfaction, burning up their energy in 1,000 scattered directions, and wondering why they never seem to get anywhere in life. They're like a fire with no hearth, hot, bright, and completely wasted. But there's another way. It's called transmutation, and it's one of the most powerful principles ever discovered for human achievement. Transmutation simply means this: taking one form of energy and converting it into another. You see it in nature all the time. Water becomes steam. Coal becomes electricity. A seed becomes a tree. And in the same way, the raw energy of desire, including sexual desire, can be transmuted into creative energy, productive energy, achievement energy. Think about it. That restless, urgent feeling you get when you want something badly, where does that come from? It comes from life force itself. It's nature's way of ensuring the continuation of the species, yes. But it's also the same force that drives every great accomplishment. The creative urge and the sexual urge spring from the same well. Now, I'm not suggesting you become a monk or deny yourself the natural pleasures of life. Far from it. What I'm saying is this: when you learn to redirect some of that powerful energy, when you channel it deliberately toward your goals, your work, your creative projects, you tap into something extraordinary. History proves this again and again. Look at the great artists, the inventors, the builders of industry. Many of them had passionate natures. They felt things intensely, but they learned, whether consciously or instinctively, how to take that intensity and pour it into their work. Napoleon Hill studied this for over 20 years, interviewing the most successful people of his time. And he discovered that the most successful among them had learned the secret of sex transmutation. They didn't suppress their desires. They harnessed them. When you're working on something important, when you're building a business, writing a book, creating something meaningful, and you feel that surge of energy, that excitement, that drive, that's transmuted desire at work. Here's how it works in practical terms. When you feel a strong desire arising, whether it's physical, emotional, or material, you have a choice. You can spend that energy in the moment, or you can redirect it. Redirecting it doesn't mean denying it. It means asking yourself, what do I really want? What am I building toward? What would give me lasting satisfaction rather than momentary pleasure? And then you take that energy and you channel it. You sit down at your desk and you work. You pick up the phone and make that call you've been putting off. You open that book and study. You go to the gym and train. You think, you plan, you create, you build. The energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes something greater. Let me give you a simple exercise you can start today. The next time you feel a powerful desire for anything, pause. Don't act on it immediately. Instead, sit quietly for just 60 seconds and ask yourself, how can I use this energy to move toward my goals? Maybe you redirect it into 30 minutes of focused work. Maybe you channel it into a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe you use it to finally start that project that's been calling to you. The point is this: you're taking control. You're becoming the director of your own energy instead of its servant. And here's what happens over time. You develop willpower. You build self-mastery. You create momentum. And you start to accomplish things that amaze you. Because while most people are scattering their energy in 100 different directions, you're focusing yours like a laser beam on what matters most. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds difficult. This sounds like deprivation. But it's not. It's liberation. Think about it. What feels better in the long run, giving in to every impulse and ending up with nothing to show for your life, or exercising discipline and creating something you're truly proud of? What brings more satisfaction, momentary pleasure that fades in minutes, or the deep fulfillment that comes from building something meaningful? The truth is, scattered energy leads to scattered lives. Focused energy leads to focused results. And here's the beautiful thing: when you transmute your energy this way, you don't lose the joy of living. You multiply it, because now you have both the pleasure of achievement and the wisdom to enjoy life's other pleasures in their proper proportion. You become someone who controls their appetites instead of being controlled by them. The person who masters their desires masters their destiny. That's the central truth of this entire message. Your desires aren't going away. They're part of being human. But when you learn to direct them, when you transmute that raw energy into productive action, you unlock a power most people never access. So let me ask you directly, what do you want to create in your life? What goal have you been putting off? What dream have you been too scattered to pursue? That restless energy, you feel that desire for something more, it's not meant to torture you. It's meant to move you. It's fuel waiting to be used. And starting today, right now, you can make a different choice. When you feel desire rising, don't waste it. Don't scatter it. Transmute it. Channel it into your work. Direct it toward your goals. Let it drive you forward instead of pulling you in circles. This is the forgotten law. This is the ancient wisdom that the successful have always known. Your energy is your power, and how you use it determines everything. The choice, as always, is yours. T'chkel tahoa ti'ain. So here's what I want you to do, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. First, identify one goal that truly matters to you, something that would make you proud, something worth working toward. Second, the next time you feel a surge of desire for anything, pause. Take that energy and immediately redirect it into action toward that goal. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you can give in that moment. Do it once today, then do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. Watch what happens. Watch how your life begins to change when you become the master of your energy instead of its slave. You have more power than you realize. It's been inside you all along. Now it's time to use it. Good night. You know, there's something inside you right now that you probably don't talk about. Something powerful. Something that makes you uncomfortable when you think about it too directly. It's been there your whole life, driving decisions you don't always understand, pulling you toward things you can't always explain. And if you're honest with yourself, really honest, you know it's gotten you into trouble more than once. Most people spend their entire lives either pretending this force doesn't exist, or worse, feeling guilty about it. They've been told it's something to be ashamed of, something base, something that proves they're not as evolved or spiritual or disciplined as they should be. So they push it down, they ignore it, they try to starve it out of existence. And all the while they wonder why they feel so tired, so restless, so unfulfilled. Now, let me ask you to consider something for just a moment. What if everything you've been told about this force was incomplete? Not necessarily wrong, but incomplete. What if the problem wasn't the force itself, but what you've been doing with it, or more accurately, what you've been not doing with it? Here's what I've discovered after years of studying successful people, creative people, people who've built extraordinary lives. They all had something in common. It wasn't intelligence, though many were intelligent. It wasn't opportunity, though some had that. It wasn't even luck. What they had was an intensity, a drive, a burning quality that made them different from everyone around them. And when you look closely at where that drive came from, you discover something fascinating. It came from the same place your restlessness comes from. The same source as that knowing feeling that there must be more to life than what you're experiencing. The same wellspring as that powerful urge you feel when you want something, really want it with every part of your being. The ancient philosophers understood this. They recognized that human beings possess different types of desire, different levels of wanting. But there was one particular kind they identified as being more powerful than all the others, more primal, more consuming. And they gave it a specific name, though the word has been so misused over the centuries that most people today think it only means one thing. But these ancient thinkers knew better. They understood that this force, this intense, almost overwhelming desire was the engine of human creation. It was the power behind every great work of art, every empire, every discovery, every passionate pursuit. They recognized it as creative energy in its purest, most concentrated form. Think about it this way. When you really want something, when that want is so strong it keeps you awake at night, when it fills your thoughts, when it makes your heart race, what's happening inside you at that moment, you're alive, fully alive. Every cell in your body is activated. Your mind becomes sharper. Your senses become keener. You have more energy than you know what to do with. That's not something evil. That's not something to be destroyed. That's power. Raw, undiluted human power. The problem is, most people never learn what to do with it. They either let it control them, chasing immediate satisfaction, burning themselves out, scattering their energy in every direction, or they try to suppress it entirely, which is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes enormous effort. It exhausts you, and sooner or later, it's going to break free anyway. But there's a third option. An option that the truly successful have always known about, whether they learned it consciously or discovered it through experience. You can redirect it. You can take that same powerful force, that intense, driving energy, and channel it into your work, into your art, into your goals, into building something that matters, something that lasts, something that makes you proud when you look back at the end of your life. And when you do that, everything changes. That force stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest ally. That energy that once scattered you now focuses you. That desire that once controlled you now propels you toward everything you've ever truly wanted. This is the hidden force. Not hidden because it's secret, but hidden because almost no one recognizes it for what it truly is, the most powerful creative energy you possess. And it's been there all along, waiting for you to understand it. You've probably noticed something troubling about yourself. There are times when you feel this tremendous surge of energy, this powerful drive to do something, be something, create something, and it feels almost overwhelming. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff with a strong wind at your back. You don't know whether to step forward or step back, and either choice feels dangerous. And here's what makes it worse. You've seen what happens when that energy goes in the wrong direction. Maybe in your own life, maybe in the lives of people around you. You've watched as that same intensity that could have built something magnificent instead tore something apart, destroyed a relationship, derailed a career, turned a promising life into a cautionary tale. So you start to wonder, is this energy itself the problem? Is there something fundamentally wrong with feeling things this intensely? Should you be trying to become calmer, cooler, less passionate? Should you be working to diminish this force rather than engage with it? And that thought that maybe the solution is to become less of who you are, that's a frightening place to stand. But before you accept that conclusion, let me share something with you. There's a principle in nature, a law, really, that's been understood by scientists and sages for thousands of years. It's so fundamental that once you see it, you start recognizing it everywhere. And it changes everything about how you understand yourself and what you're capable of. Here it is: energy never disappears. It can't. That's not how the universe works. Energy doesn't vanish, it transforms. It changes from one form into another endlessly, eternally. The gasoline in your car becomes motion and heat. The food you eat becomes movement and thought. The sunlight hitting a solar panel becomes electricity powering your home. Same energy, different form. Now, the ancient thinkers had a word for this principle when they applied it to human nature. They called it transmutation. And what they discovered was profound. The same law that governs the physical world also governs the world inside you. That powerful energy you feel, that intensity, that drive, that burning sense of want, it doesn't have a fixed destination. It's not locked into one channel. It's pure potential. And just like water can turn a wheel, generate steam, or carve a canyon depending on how it's directed, your energy can create entirely different outcomes depending on where you point it. Think about a fire for a moment. In the wilderness, an uncontrolled fire destroys everything in its path. But that same fire, contained in a furnace, heats a home. Channeled into an engine, it powers a vehicle across a continent. Focused in a forge, it transforms raw metal into tools and art. The fire itself isn't good or bad. It's the containment, the direction, the purpose that determines what it creates. You are the same way. That restless energy inside you. That's not a flaw in your design. That's not evidence that something's wrong with you. That's raw creative power. And the reason it sometimes feels dangerous is the same reason fire feels dangerous, not because it's evil, but because it's powerful, and power without direction is unpredictable. But here's the remarkable truth: you have more control over this than you think. You can't eliminate the energy, and you wouldn't want to, because without it you'd be lifeless, passionless, going through the motions of existence without ever truly living. But you can absolutely transform it. You can take that same force that might otherwise scatter you or lead you into trouble, and you can deliberately redirect it into achievement, creation, contribution. The musician does this when they take powerful emotion and channel it into a song that moves thousands of people. The entrepreneur does this when they take burning ambition and focus it into building something that serves others and creates value. The athlete does this when they take competitive fire and direct it into excellence, discipline, mastery. They're not suppressing their intensity. They're transmuting it. They're taking the same energy that could destroy and consciously choosing to let it create instead. And this isn't just possible for special people or geniuses or those born with some unique gift. This is a law. It works for anyone who understands it and applies it. The energy is already there. The capacity for transformation is already built into how you're made. All that's needed is the decision to direct it and the discipline to maintain that direction. When you grasp this, really grasp it, something shifts inside you. That energy stops feeling like a curse and starts feeling like what it truly is: the fuel for everything you've ever wanted to build. You're not broken. You're powerful. And now you know what to do with that power. Here's something that keeps people awake at 3 in the morning. Knowing what you should do and doing the opposite anyway. You know the feeling. You've got goals. You've got plans. You can see clearly what would move your life forward, what would make you proud, what would build toward the future you actually want. And yet, when the moment comes when you're tired, when you're stressed, when that impulse hits, you find yourself reaching for the easy thing, the immediate thing, the thing that gives you relief right now, but takes you further from where you said you wanted to go. And afterward, there's that familiar sinking feeling, that quiet voice that says, "You did it again. You knew better, and you did it anyway." Maybe you just don't have what it takes. Maybe you're always going to be like this. That's a hard place to be. It's one thing to fail when you're trying your best. It's another thing entirely to watch yourself sabotage your own dreams, repeatedly, predictably, while some part of you stands by helplessly observing. If you've been there, and most honest people have, you know how defeating it feels. But let me tell you something important. There's a reason this happens. And it's not because you're weak or broken or lacking in character. There's a mechanism at work here, and once you understand it, everything becomes simpler. Not easier necessarily, but simpler. And simpler is the first step toward possible. Here's what's happening. Your mind operates on 2 different time scales simultaneously. Part of you thinks in terms of now, this moment, this feeling, this immediate discomfort or desire. It's the part that says, "I want this, and I want it right now." That part is fast, loud, and compelling. But there's another part that thinks in terms of later, tomorrow, next month, next year, the person you're becoming through the sum of your choices. That part is quieter. It speaks in whispers rather than shouts. It says, "Yes, but what about what we really want?" And here's the problem: in any given moment, the loud voice almost always wins. Not because it's right, but because it's immediate. It's like standing in a room with someone shouting in your ear while someone else whispers from across the hall. You might know the whisper contains the better advice, but you can barely hear it over the shouting. So the question becomes, how do you turn up the volume on the quiet voice? How do you make your long-term vision more compelling than your short-term impulse? The answer is what I call conscious redirection. And it's simpler than you might think. See, you don't have to eliminate desire. You don't have to become some passionless robot, carefully calculating every move, never feeling anything intensely. That's not the goal, and frankly, it wouldn't work anyway. You're a human being, not a machine. What you do need is a clear target and a practiced habit of aiming at it. Think of it this way. When you're driving and you need to change lanes, you don't fight with the car. You don't wrestle the steering wheel or slam on the brakes. You simply turn the wheel gently, deliberately in the direction you want to go. The car responds. The direction changes. It's not dramatic. It's just intentional. That's what redirection is. It's the gentle, deliberate turning of your attention and therefore your energy toward your chosen destination instead of wherever the impulse of the moment wants to take you. In practice, it looks like this. You feel that surge of energy, that strong pull toward something. And instead of either indulging it immediately or trying to crush it through willpower, you pause for just 3 seconds, just 3. And in those 3 seconds, you ask yourself one simple question. If I follow this impulse right now, am I moving toward my goal or away from it? That's it. That's the whole technique. You're not judging yourself. You're not making it complicated. You're simply checking your direction. And if the answer is away from my goal, you make a different choice. You take that same energy and point it somewhere useful. You go work on your project. You go for a walk. You call someone you've been meaning to talk to. You do something, anything that moves you forward instead of sideways or backward. And here's what happens over time. It gets easier. Not because you become less passionate or less driven, but because your mind learns the pattern. The more often you redirect that energy toward your purpose, the more naturally it flows in that direction. The path becomes worn. The channel becomes deeper. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're training yourself, and that makes all the difference. This is the discipline of redirection. It's not about becoming perfect. It's not about never feeling tempted or never wanting the easy thing. It's about building the habit of conscious choice, of recognizing your energy for what it is and deliberately pointing it toward what you're trying to build. You've got the power. You've always had it. Now you're learning to steer it. You wake up one morning and decide today is the day. Today you're going to take control. You're going to redirect that energy, focus on what matters, build something meaningful. You feel it, that sense of determination, that clarity of purpose. You can see yourself 6 months from now, transformed, living the life you know you're capable of living. And for that day, maybe 2 days, perhaps even a week, you do it. You're disciplined. You're focused. You feel powerful. Then something happens. Life gets busy. You have a bad day at work. Someone needs something from you. You're tired. And you think, I'll get back to it tomorrow. This is just one day. One day won't matter. But then tomorrow comes and something else happens. And the day after that. And before you know it, 2 weeks have passed, then a month, and you're right back where you started. Maybe worse, because now you've added another layer of disappointment, the knowledge that you tried and couldn't sustain it. This is the pattern that breaks people. Not the big failures, not the dramatic setbacks, but this quiet, gradual slide back into old habits, this cycle of inspiration, effort, and inevitable collapse. And each time it happens, it becomes a little harder to believe you're capable of real change. If you've lived this cycle enough times, you start to wonder if permanent change is even possible for someone like you. Now, let me stop you right there for just a moment, because there's something crucial you need to understand about how transformation actually works, something most people never learn, which is why they keep repeating this painful cycle. Here's the truth. You've been thinking about this backward. You've been treating transformation as an event, something that happens to you in a moment of decision or inspiration. You picture it like flipping a switch. One day you're one way, then you decide to change, and suddenly you're different. The old you gone, the new you firmly in place. But that's not how human beings work. That's not how anything in nature works. Real change isn't an event. It's a process. It's not something you do once. It's something you do daily, repeatedly, consistently, until the new way of being becomes as natural as breathing. Think about learning to drive. Remember the first time you sat behind the wheel. You had to think about everything. Where are your hands? Which pedal is which? How hard do you press? How much do you turn the wheel? It was overwhelming. It took all your concentration just to keep the car moving forward without crashing. But you didn't expect to master driving in one session, did you? You practiced, day after day. And gradually, so gradually, you barely noticed it happening. Your body learned. Your mind learned. And now you can drive while thinking about other things, having a conversation, listening to music. It became automatic. That's what we're talking about here. Not a single heroic decision, but the patient building of a new pattern through repetition. When it comes to redirecting your powerful energy toward your goals instead of letting it scatter or lead you astray, you're learning a new skill. And like any skill, it requires practice, daily practice. Here's what that looks like in practical terms. Every single morning, before the day takes over, you spend just 15 minutes consciously connecting with your purpose. Not thinking about what you need to do today, that comes later, but connecting with why you're doing this. What you're building, who you're becoming. Maybe you write about it. Maybe you visualize it. Maybe you read something that reminds you of what matters. The specific method isn't as important as the consistency. You're not trying to motivate yourself into some emotional frenzy. You're simply, quietly, deliberately reminding yourself of your direction. Then throughout the day, when you feel that surge of energy, and you will feel it, multiple times you have a reference point. You've already set the channel. The energy knows where to flow because you carved the path that morning. And then at night before you sleep, you spend 5 minutes reviewing your day. Not judging it, not beating yourself up for what you didn't do perfectly, but simply noticing, where did my energy go today? When did I redirect it successfully? When did I let it scatter? What can I learn from this? That's it. That's the daily practice. 15 minutes in the morning, attention throughout the day, 5 minutes at night. It sounds simple because it is simple. But simple isn't the same as easy, and it's definitely not the same as insignificant. Because here's what happens when you do this day after day. The redirecting gets easier. The channel gets deeper. Your mind starts to automatically route your energy toward your purpose, because that's the path you've traveled so many times before. You're not relying on willpower anymore. You're not depending on motivation. You're operating on something far more reliable: habit, pattern, practice. The person who practices this daily for 6 months becomes unrecognizable, not because they had one moment of transformation, but because they had 180 of them. You don't need to change your entire life today. You don't need to become perfect starting tomorrow. You just need to practice today, and then again tomorrow. That's how mastery is built, not in dramatic moments, but in quiet consistency. And you can start right now. There's a question that haunts serious people who think deeply about their lives and what they're building. It usually comes late at night, in those quiet moments when you can't hide from yourself anymore. The question is this: what if I do all of this, the discipline, the focus, the daily practice, and I still don't get what I'm after? What if I redirect all this energy, work harder than I've ever worked, sacrifice the easy pleasures everyone else seems to enjoy, and at the end of it all I still fail? What if circumstances turn against me? What if the economy crashes, or someone else gets there first, or I simply don't have what it takes? Because here's the thing: you can't control outcomes. You know that. The world is full of variables you'll never be able to predict or manage. Other people's decisions, market forces, timing, luck. You can do everything right and still not achieve the external result you're aiming for. And if that's true, if success isn't guaranteed no matter how hard you work or how well you direct your energy, then what's the point? Why go through all this effort? Why not just take the easy path, grab whatever pleasures you can, and accept that life is mostly a matter of chance anyway? That's a legitimate question. And if you've thought it, you're not being cynical. You're being honest. So let me answer it directly. Because there's something you need to understand about what we've been talking about, something that changes everything once you see it clearly. The real prize isn't out there. It never was. All those external goals you've been chasing, the career success, the financial security, the recognition, the achievements, those things are fine. They're worth pursuing, but they're not the ultimate achievement. They're byproducts. They're secondary results. The ultimate achievement is something that can never be taken from you, something that no economic collapse or bad timing or other person's decision can touch. The ultimate achievement is self-mastery. Let me tell you what I mean. When you learn to consciously redirect your most powerful energy toward your chosen purpose, something profound happens inside you. You stop being a passenger in your own life. You stop being pushed around by every impulse, every mood, every external circumstance. You become, perhaps for the first time, the actual author of your own experience. Think about what that means. Most people go through life feeling controlled by their desires, their circumstances, their past, other people's expectations. They want something, so they chase it. They feel something, so they react to it. Something happens to them, so they respond emotionally. They're like leaves in the wind, constantly moving but never choosing their direction. But when you master the art of transmutation, when you can take that raw, powerful energy inside you and deliberately channel it where you choose, you step into a different category of human being entirely. You become someone who cannot be controlled by external circumstances because your internal state doesn't depend on those circumstances anymore. You become someone who has goals but isn't enslaved by them, who experiences desire but isn't driven by it, who feels emotion but isn't ruled by it. You might not get everything you go after. That's true. The world doesn't owe you success just because you've done the work. But here's what nobody can take from you: the person you become through the practice of mastery. When you've spent months or years practicing conscious redirection, choosing again and again to point your energy toward creation rather than consumption, toward building rather than destroying, toward your purpose rather than your impulse, you develop something priceless. You develop what the ancient Stoics called an inner citadel, a place inside you that remains calm, clear, and strong regardless of what's happening outside. You walk into a room differently. You handle setbacks differently. You face uncertainty differently. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because you genuinely know something that most people don't. You know you can trust yourself. You know that whatever happens, you'll be able to handle it because you've proven day after day through your practice that you can direct your own energy, your own mind, your own life. That's freedom. Real freedom. Not freedom from responsibility or difficulty, but freedom from being controlled by forces inside you that you don't understand. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop needing external success to prove your worth, when you've already achieved the ultimate achievement of self-mastery, that's usually when the external success starts showing up, because people can sense it. They can tell when someone has that inner strength, that self-possession, that quiet confidence that comes from real mastery. But by that point, it almost doesn't matter, because you've already won the only contest that truly counts, the one with yourself. That's what we're really talking about here. Not just how to accomplish your goals, though you'll likely do that too, but how to become the kind of person who can't be shaken, can't be controlled, can't be diminished by anything outside themselves. How to become free in the truest sense of the word. And that achievement, that ultimate achievement, is available to you right now, today, through the simple practice of learning to master and redirect your own powerful energy. The world might give you success or withhold it. That's not entirely up to you. But becoming the master of yourself, that's completely within your control, and nobody can ever take it away.